Sorry we're late.
It was a House Democratic caucus, which is full of ideas. My purpose today is to announce our budget-making plan for the next several days. And of course, the budget making began on February the 18th when the governor delivered his budget message. You may recall that in the budget message and in the budget that he filed shortly after the budget address, I characterized that as a reckless spending plan because the governor proposed to spend over $2 billion in anticipated pension savings, which we had no reason to anticipate would actually happen. Subsequently, why the Supreme Court has given us an opinion on changes in the pension systems, and after that Supreme Court decision, the governor has not amended that budget, nor has he filed a new budget. And so at the time I characterized it as reckless, and I said it's reckless because given the difficulty of that spending of the anticipated savings, why he didn't have the money that he needed to pay for that budget. My position then and now is that there ought to be a balanced approach to budget making, that there should be cuts, but there also should be new money. And I've said consistently that I'm prepared to work with the governor to find new money for the FY16 state budget. We just left our caucus, and what I want to announce to you is that the Democrats in the legislature, both the House and the Senate, will offer a spending plan that will be consistent with our view of what the state of Illinois should do for Illinoisans who need the government to be helpful to them. We will publicly acknowledge that we don't have the money to pay for this budget, that there will be a shortfall in this budget, but we're prepared to work with the governor, negotiate with the governor to raise the money so that there's a balanced budget. So again, the Democrats, both in the House and the Senate, will offer a spending plan that we feel is responsive to the needs of the people of Illinois who need the state to be available to help them in a whole variety of ways and manners. Questions?
How much money do you need?
We feel a little over $3 billion.
So that would be how much spending? 30, how much?
I think it's about $36.3 billion.
So what kind of cuts do you think would be acceptable? What kind of revenue do you think would be acceptable?
We've built cuts into our spending plan. And as I said, we feel that the spending plan that we have developed is an appropriate spending plan for what the people of Illinois want and need, and we're ready to work with the governor to find the money to pay for it.
Given that this is largely level with last year's spending, where are the cuts and how much is being cut?
The cuts are generally all through the budget. They would be, as we do budget making in the House, some of the cuts would be in the area of human services. Some of the cuts would be in the area of higher education. Other of the cuts would be in the area of what we call general services, which are the miscellaneous state agencies. We will propose an increase in education, and we will propose an increase for the Department of Corrections. In addition, there is an increase for the pension payment because we will appropriate the mandated amount, which has been certified by the pension systems.
Is it irresponsible to pass a budget you can't pay for?
Well, as I said, we will publicly acknowledge that we're offering this spending plan. And we will publicly call upon the governor to work with us to find the money to pay for this spending plan. It's a little different than what the governor did when he filed a budget, claimed that he would spend about $2 billion of anticipated savings from a pension plan, which has never been filed before the House. It wasn't filed before the Supreme Court decision. It hasn't been filed after the Supreme Court decision. I characterized that at the time as reckless, and I stand on that.
Of
course, the governor has said that he's not willing to go for revenue unless you go with
Yep.
his turnaround plan. He said, he compromised there. He's offered you.
I think it's important for everybody to understand that the most important thing for the governor and the legislature to do right now is to prepare a spending plan, to do the budget making. And I don't really feel it's appropriate to bring non-budget issues into the budget making. This is a legitimate, straightforward discussion about the spending plan for the state, what the state of Illinois should spend, so the state is responsive to the needs of Illinoisans who need the state to be responsive to them.
Are you fearful that he's going to cast you as Democrats who just want to spend taxpayers' money? And in fact, his press office has already sent out a press release before you even made these remarks that said of you, Speaker Madigan, and the politicians he controls are walking away from the negotiating table and refusing to compromise on critical reforms.
Well, those are the non-budget issues that they're talking about. And so, as I said, our purpose here is to adopt a budget, to adopt a spending plan, where that spending would be responsive to the needs of Illinoisans that need the government to be helpful to them, to be responsive to them. I don't plan to bring non-budget issues into this budget making. The governor is attempting to bring non-budget issues into this. They will say what they want to say, and it'd be unfortunate if they took the focus off the budget making and engaged in a lot of political rhetoric.
Is it likely that he could just veto the entire plan and do efforts to set spending at certain levels throughout the door?
We're not certain what he'll do. Obviously, he has certain options available to him. We have certain options available to us. I think it's very important that everybody understand that the Democratic Party of Illinois, the Democratic members in the legislature, support a spending plan and a spending level that makes the state able to be responsive to Illinoisans that need help from the state of Illinois.
Will there be any efforts in the final days of session to file legislation that would come up with revenue tax increases, anything like that, in your thoughts?
There might be some Democrats that would be interested in filing revenue bills. Now, this is a Republican governor. You'll need his signature on any revenue increases. And so if people wish to file bills, they should go ahead and file the bills. At the same time, I would state my willingness to talk with the governor, to negotiate with the governor, to find the money to pay for a spending plan that's responsive to the needs of the people of the state.
Have you considered it a mistake of the governor not to engage on the budget yet and to put this working group agenda first?
I would just disagree with his method. That's what I would do. And so there are certain non-budget issues which are before the legislature. And you know in the House why we've called for a vote several of those non-budget issues, and they've been rejected. They've lost. Now it's time to move into the budget making and into the development of a spending plan, and that's what we ought to be focused on.
Are you willing to consider those non-budget issues in conjunction with looking at revenue, though?
Again, I don't think you should bring the non-budget issues into the budget making, and the need for more money to pay for the budget is part of the budget making.
When was the last time you spoke with the governor about these issues?
Within the last week.
Was it a good meeting?
It was a cordial meeting. Yep.
Well, Leader Durkin has said more than once, harkening back to the inauguration, Speaker Madigan said, "We welcome the Republicans back," and it sounds like something has changed since then. What's changed?
Well, they're in their seats, they're in the chamber, and they're participating in the debates. You hear them, and they're voting sometimes. So that's an improvement.
Well, why would Durkin
money
be?
that he has? He's made it very clear that he has a pretty large campaign war chest and he's
Mhm.
willing to use it on you and others who don't go his way.
Well, if that happens, that happens. Speaking for myself, I'm here to discharge my duty and my obligation as a state representative, as the Speaker of the House. And I'm going to continue to do my work as I think I should do it. Again, I don't think we should be bringing non-budget issues into the preparation of a spending plan where the spending of that money is really essential for a lot of people in this state.
You call the turnaround agenda a non-budget issue, but the governor would argue that if we get these reforms passed, we're gonna have more money business booming in Illinois. What's your response to that?
That's pretty much of a David Stockton theory. Do you remember David Stockton?
Speaker, yeah, you have, there were elements of the turnaround agenda that were called before the House. But
You mean the non-budget issues?
the non-budget issues. But there are others that are outlying, and we've all seen the General Assembly be able to do a lot at one time. We've got some days to go. So do you plan any more action on that? I mean, term limits has now been introduced, a constitutional amendment for redistricting. What about some of those? Is there room for any of that while you're concurrently working on the budget?
Well, look, on term limits, I've stated publicly, I support term limits as administered by the voters of the state. Simple. On the redistricting, that's something that couldn't happen until 2 or 3 years from now, as drafted by the sponsors of the resolution. We should prepare a budget over the next few days that's responsive to the needs of the people of the state. That's what we should do.
Where
Can
do
you
you
see
guys
the
go?
timeline going? How do you see this unfolding over the next couple of days?
I'm available.
But in terms of the budget, are we gonna be here up until May 31st, or should we get out early?
I have no idea. I have no idea.
Speaker, where did the governor go wrong? Like, what did you?
No, I'm not going to say that the gentleman went wrong. I'm not going to say that, all right? He has his views on what should be done by the government, and others in the legislature have different views. That's just the way it is. What he's attempting to do is to mix apples and oranges. He's attempting to bring these non-budget issues into the budget making. That's where there's a pretty serious difference of opinion between he and I and others in the legislature.
Does he not understand the value of the budget? I mean, or how big of a deal this is to state employees, what is he not understanding?
I'm not going to get into characterizations of what he understands and what he doesn't understand. I mean, you understand what he has said and what he said he wants to do. And again, he wants to take non-budget issues and make them part of the budget making.
Sounds like
Mr.
it's
Speaker,
got a
are we gonna be here all summer as the governor has threatened?
Again, I don't know, and issuing threats really is not helpful to this process. It doesn't make people feel good about other people. Like I feel good about media people. Have a great day.
So good that